All right.
Oh,
we're still gonna get sued. We're totally sue the shit out of us.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WPwatercooler, and this is episode number 327. This particular episode is brought to you by desktop server makers of ServerPress. Make sure you go over to their website over at serverpress.com, where you can find out all the cool stuff that they have going on over there, and all the great utilities they have, including WP Site Sync. So feel free to go take a look at them over on their site. Also, just so you know, is this show is not only just a video, but it's also a podcast. And if you want to listen to us instead of looking at ugly mugs, you can go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe, and that's where you can figure out how to subscribe to this. So
I resemble that remark.
As he takes his glasses off. Well, let's go around the room real quick and get everyone introduced. Let's see here. Jessica, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, my name is Jessica Scott, and I am a screenwriter by trade, and most recently the co-founder, co-editor, and head writer of Gleek.com, a comedy satire website.
Awesome. Good to have you on. Good to have you on. Steve, how about you? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Steve Zehngut. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive. I run the OC WordPress meetup, and I'm also a founder of Gleek.com.
Nice.
I'm detecting a trend here. This is, let's see here. Let's roll the dice. Okay, Erik, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Erik Patterson. I am also a screenwriter. I'm Jessica's screenwriting partner, and also a co-founder of Gleek.com. Actually,
I think that's what it's called.
Good job.
I think that's the name.
Yeah.
I think that's the website. Gleek.com.
Yeah.
6'3", brown hair. No, that's all you need. That's all you need.
How's it walking on
He's
the
a
beach?
Leo.
Does that work out too? Cosper, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
Oh, hi. I'm Jason Cosper. I have a face made for audio very clearly, and AKA Kurt Autoloader, just happy to be here talking about WordPress news and everything else, talking about Gleek today. Jason, how about yourself?
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog. I do this show as well as another show called WP Blab. Feel free to go take a look at that. Yesterday, we talked to Corey Miller about separating your identity from your product, which may be something we might want to talk about here on this show. So
I need to go review that.
We'll see how that goes here.
Look,
Awesome.
when you're a writer, your identity is product.
Yeah, that's true. Steve, you need to start writing, my friend.
Here we go. Here we go. I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer. That's why I'm partnered with these two.
You need to throw him a bone every once in a while. Change the author tag to Steve, just so it looks like he's doing something over there.
No.
Just Steve, no last name. He's
Yeah.
like the Cher of comedy.
If we ever write anything incredibly embarrassing, we'll just tag him as the author.
That'll be our nom de plume.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So let's talk a little bit about feeding the blogging machine is what we were kind of coming up with, in this. How did you guys even come up with this idea of doing this site? And where'd you start with that? Let's take that one on.
Yeah, great question. Honestly, I've had this domain for a long time, right? And I've wanted to do something with it. So I went to Jessica and I said, let's take this domain and do something with it and run with it from a creative standpoint. That's literally how it came to be. How it came to fruition. And this is what she came up with.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
well,
cool.
he said he had this great name, Gleek.com, and that he had been sitting on it for a long time and wanting to do something with it. And he knew he wanted to do something with comedy. It wasn't just kind of he was a little more focused with that. It wasn't just like, hey, let's do something. He said, I'd love to do something that was comedy based. And so, I got together with my partner, Erik, and we kind of were brainstorming about, well, what could this site be? We were both, there's a lot of comedy on the internet, if you haven't noticed. And so we were looking for a way to kind of put our spin on it with our unique point of view. And we did kind of a deep dive into what the word gleek means. And the original word, like back in Shakespeare's time, meant to roast people, to comedically roast people. And so we thought, well, this is a really great approach to the site where we are kind of celebrating the weird things in life, the people, places, and odd pop culture things that we like by gleeking them.
That's cool. Yeah. I like that. The whole mouth spit gleek part of it. You have that kind of thing as well.
It is represented in the logo. If you didn't notice,
I did see that.
I like to think that that's a word balloon, but it's blue for a reason.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
We are spitting forth comedy gems for you all.
And you will get wet, so.
Yes. So upside.
If you Google Gleek on the internet, the first video is how to do what you just described, Jason.
Right.
Right.
It was probably me, and it was many years ago. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, didn't you used to take like a Jolly Rancher midget and you'd put it, and that made it go like you could hit the teacher on the back of her head. Right.
just take a turn.
Oh man, that's
we
cool.
We're actually planning on gleeking.
Yes.
So,
okay.
But we discovered that would actually cause a rift in the space-time continuum.
Yes, so we're waiting just a little bit longer.
I think it's time to actually cause a rift.
It is, yeah.
I think we're ready.
Yeah. You can either go back in time and kill baby Hitler, or you can gleeking.
Mm-hmm.
Those are your choices.
So I started out with the domain first, which is interesting because usually when you're working out the site, the domain name is probably the last thing because you're like, okay, we have a great idea, but I have no idea what it's going to be called. And then your site ends up becoming gleek.limousine, and you're like, oh, cool. So we were able to get gleek.limousine. That works out great.
Oh shit! I bet somebody is now squatting on gleek.limousine. Thank you.
Gleek.tuxedo, yeah,
Yeah, I know we kind of went about it backwards, but I have like 200, maybe 300 domains, and I have a bunch of really odd ones, and this one just stuck. It's kind of funny, it's catchy, and yeah.
And I think it was kismet that it actually tied into what you wanted to do with the site.
Yes.
What were some of those other domains that you could have used for the site, Steve?
Uh-oh.
Oh wow. I have yakbox.com. And then I have a bunch of nonsense words like fump. words that like you would appear in a comic book somewhere, right? In a like a word balloon. So yeah.
Nice.
Whoomp should be a website with just jokes that don't work that go whoomp.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
There we go.
Like just bad. All the jokes that we don't like.
So like 99% of what we write.
Well, yeah, what we can do is we could look at our analytics, and the ones that didn't hit, we'll just move them over to Fump.
Oh, I like it.
I mean, rebrand the content.
Yeah.
That's feeding the content machine right there.
That is.
Right.
Multi-use.
Oh, man.
But since the topic is feeding the content machine, maybe we should talk about our publishing process a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Since this is a WordPress podcast.
So what, coming up with an idea?
Well,
transforming it, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of creative meetings as we've been building the website and before we launched, and so we for many months have been making lists of like things that we want to roast, things we want to gleek, and now we have this like a massive list, and we've written many of them. Many of them are now on the website. Many of them are waiting, or in the bank, as we call it. And then there's a lot. We have a very, very long list of things that I occasionally will look at and think, oh, we need to write that one. We need to get that one into the bank because it's going to be, it's time to put it on the site soon.
I mean, we calendared from the point we launched, which was about a month ago, we calendared the entire year out in terms of everything that we would want to be writing about and where it would slot every week that we were going to have new material on the site, which we have new posts every day on the site. And then we also
evergreen.
Say again?
Are those more evergreen content that it's just going to work no matter what? Like
it is because some of the things like the post we have up today is who does Steven Spielberg hate more, Nazis or dogs? Because he does a lot of movies where he kills a lot of Nazis, but he also does a lot of movies where he oddly kills a lot of dogs. So it's debatable. But that's not necessarily tied to a particular month or a day or an event. That's something that could appear anytime on the site. But we also chase the news cycle, because when you're doing topical satirical comedy, a lot of times you're looking at what's actually trending and what's going on in the news cycle. So if we have something that we've slotted for future content, but something happens in the news cycle that we want to talk about, then obviously we write a blog post either for that day or, within the next 24 hours to make sure that it's up and timely.
Yeah, like a couple examples of that, when Ben Carson a few weeks ago made the comment about not knowing what Oreos were, and he thought that they were Oreo cookies. We quickly wrote a post for that and got that up that day. And then like another slightly different version of that is like we had slated on our calendar, we gleeked sporks, because we'll gleek anything that we think we can make fun of.
Who doesn't love a spork? Right.
I mean, and so we had a gleek in the calendar for sporks that was going to publish in like a month, and then Toy Story 4 comes out, and there's the main new character is a spork named Forky. And so, we talked and said, let's move that thing up. We got to get the spork content out there. We
have our finger on the pulse of spork. But that's all I want to say.
Jason, you did bring up a good point about content being evergreen, right? So if you follow the Twitter feed, one of the other things that we're doing is sort of retweeting things based on whatever national holiday it is, whatever bullshit national holiday it is for the day, right? That can tie into Gleek. I'm blanking on which one we did recently that tied into a national holiday, so maybe you can remind me.
Well, we did a Gleek on one night stands, how we should reclaim the glory of one night stands, and we tied it to National Martini Day because those go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I think we tied in National Bring Your Dog to Work Day with
Spielberg hates dogs. Yeah.
Yeah. One.
Yeah. Just don't bring your dog to the set of a Steven Spielberg movie because
No.
Or don't bring your Nazi either, because he can go either way.
And there are actually more Nazis these days than dogs, but I don't know.
That's true. 2019.
Bringing it back to your original question about feeding the content machine, the other thing that we're doing is creating a lot of memes around the content. Again, keeping the content that we've already written fresh and evergreen by adding regular memes about the content. We found actually Erik found a site called, we don't even know how to pronounce it, called Imgflip. That's how I say it. IMG Flip.
Okay.
And that's where we've been producing our memes, right? And so we've been using that to create the memes and post them out on Twitter and Instagram. But what we didn't realize is Imgflip has its own community, right? And so we're huge. We're huge on Imgflip.
Huge on Imgflip.
We are huge. We're killing it on Imgflip, right? Yeah. That and $3 will get us a cup of coffee at Starbucks. But
yeah.
But yeah, so we'll create something on Imgflip. It ends up in our stream there, and then other people respond to the memes with memes. It's a meme conversation.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
It's funny. It's funny that you found a place that you didn't know was a social network, and then you're like, yes, I'm all about this social network now.
Yeah. We're accidentally Imgflip famous.
Yeah. Every time I go to make a new meme, we have a bigger number next to our account name. The likes or the stars or the faves. Or I'm very young and hip, and I know exactly what.
Totally.
Don't worry, Jason. We'll remember the little people when we make it big.
I appreciate that.
Our meme stream is legit.
And the other thing we're starting to experiment with is some video memes, and so we're playing with Content Samurai. I don't know if you've played with this tool. Chris Lemma recommended it a while back, and we've been meaning to check it out. We actually just started creating some test content this week, and it's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. It's a lot of fun.
It's a video creation thing?
So it's basically when you see those videos on like CNN, they'll do a video that's just maybe images. You see it on CNN.com. They'll do like an image that either zooms in or zooms out, and they'll put a little caption next to it. And it's really just sort of like filler video for some of their stuff that they don't have video for. That's what this site is. It allows you to create those, we're just using it for our own purposes, right?
Yeah,
You know?
and
That's
I
awesome.
think our sense of humor skews toward the weird and the like. We have bizarre senses of humor, and I think that Content Samurai somehow, I feel like, reads our brains and picks very amazingly odd video clips.
We plugged in the Donald Duck post. Since this is a family adjacent show, we plugged in the Donald
We'll just
Duck.
call it the Donald Duck post.
Yeah, the Donald Duck post.
Which, by the way, we did tie to Donald Duck Day. Hashtag Donald Duck Day. So,
if you want to see what we're talking about, go to the site and read the Donald Duck post. You'll understand why I'm not saying it on the water cooler. But we plugged that. That was the first post I plugged into Content Samurai. And the stuff that it auto-generated for us was just genius. It's got this... Content Samurai has some sort of an AI or machine learning engine in it where it goes and it finds videos and images related to the words that you type in, and what it came back with was just hysterical. and actually, you know, that's something we could do is probably just let Content Samurai go for it and just publish some of the stuff that it creates for us.
We'd have to credit Content Samurai as a writer then, because AI is creating some.
It's doing better than Steve, so I think we're all right.
That's true. That's true. If we do add Content Samurai as a writer, at least 3 out of the 4 of us will be killing it.
True.
I love that. I love using just like that weird kind of roulette type thing of let's figure out what this thing's going to come up with and be able to use it. So that's fun. So you guys have a writing background as writing partners. How did that even start up? Because I really want to see kind of how that works, and then now you're adding in technology to it of being able to use this as a on the website. So what's your beginnings?
Well, I got my start 20 years ago, writing for the X-Files. That was my first professional gig, and I did a bunch of stuff in the kind of sci-fi horror genre space for a while, and then I met Erik on a show. We were working on a show called Night Visions, which was like a horror anthology show for Fox years and years and years ago. We were working in different capacities on the show, but we kind of became friends and started hanging out, and then ended up on another show together, not as writing partners, but again, just working independently on another show. And then yet a third show, we ended up together. We were just kind of going along together from show to show to show. And that show collapsed.
We went from acquaintances to friends to then the third time.
Yeah, to best friends and then writing partners.
Yeah.
And when that third show collapsed, as shows often do, we were supposed to go to Berlin for the pilot shoot, and the show literally collapsed like 2 weeks out. Like we lost all our international financing.
They were building sets, they were casting. It was.
Yeah. But we still had plane tickets to Berlin via London, so we decided, well, let's go. So we went to London with the goal of going to Berlin. We never made it to Berlin. We literally stayed in London for like almost a month, and we're just hanging out in pubs and coffee shops and various locations around London. I was rewriting a feature. Erik was working on a play, which is what his original background was as a playwright. And we kind of brainstormed an idea for a TV show that was called Out There, which was basically a gay Wonder Years. And we thought, this is a really fun idea for a single camera half-hour show. We should come back and try to do something with it. We came back, we pitched it, we sold it. Unfortunately, ultimately, it didn't go to series, but that was kind of the genesis of our partnership. And that was, 17 years ago now?
About 17 years ago, something like that, yeah. And so we've been, writing partners for 17 years and have written really kind of every genre you could imagine. We've written kids movies, we've written romantic comedies. We have a horror movie that's in development right now with Zachary Quinto and his production company. We wrote for several years on this TV show called R.L. Stein's Haunting Hour that was like, it was basically a Twilight Zone for kids. And we just we hop around. We refuse to let people pigeonhole us, and we hop around from genre to genre to genre. And when Steve brought the Gleek name to Jessica, and then Jessica came to me, really we love writing comedy, and we don't always have the opportunity to write as much comedy as we want to. And this seemed like the perfect chance and opportunity to, one, really explore that comedy side of ourselves, and two, do something that is totally ours, that like we control. Because often as screenwriters, you're waiting on producers to get this funding, and you're waiting on this to happen and this to line up. And this was something that we could just, let's make this and do this and put it out there. So I think that got us really excited.
That's cool, because the reason why I brought that up is when the group here on Watercooler is trying to come up with an idea, we start throwing stuff back and forth at each other, and it was quick for us to jump on, being able to do one of these episodes, because of the fact that we've had some history where we've kind of goofed around after word camps and meetups and all that fun stuff, and it was super easy for us to just kind of jump in and be like, yeah, we can do a show together. Mm-hmm. And so for kind of looking at the way that you guys are approaching this, it's like you almost know what the other person's going to say before you pitch the idea, right? You're just gonna be like, so Jessica, what do you think about this? And she's like, yeah, I know you're gonna do something great with it, go for it. And then the same back to Erik, right? And so
yeah, it's odd. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
How do you filter that then? Because you didn't end up with just everything would be up on the website, and so obviously,
well, eventually everything will be on the website. Eventually, we're not going to filter. But it's really weird. Erik and I have an incredibly similar sense of humor, and that's why we work really well as screenwriters, because not only just a sense of humor, but just a sensibility about how we think about character, how we think about story. And when we work as screenwriters, we will come up with an idea for a screenplay or a TV show or what have you. We will break the story, meaning we will figure out what the beats of the story are and who the characters are and what their arc is. And then we will kind of build out the outline for the story. But then literally we will split the story in half. So if we have something with 80 scenes, I'll write 40 and Erik will write 40, and then we'll Frankenstein stitch it together and then look at what we've done. And it's remarkably seamless.
Yeah, I forget.
We can't tell, like, did I write that line? Did Erik write that line? Did I do this scene? It's like our sensibility about how to approach it is very similar. And that translated in, with Gleek in terms of writing the comedy, our senses of humor are almost identical. And I trust that whatever Erik brings to me and says, hey, I want to Gleek this, I want to Gleek that I'm going to be like, oh my God, I can't wait to hear your point of view on it. Mm-hmm. And hopefully he feels the same way about what I'm bringing to the table. Steve, we don't really care what Steve brings to the table, so really he doesn't count. But
that's true of all things.
Yes, but no, Steve actually will literally text us and be like, "Oh my God, we need to Gleek this, we need to Gleek that," and throw some jokes out, and I'll be like, "All right, those are good, those are going in."
So the Chris Evans one was Steve's idea then, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, he lusts after Chris Evans in a big time way. He loves him 3,000. That's all I'm saying.
But the funny thing also is that, like, because our sense of humor is all really aligned, and I think all three of us, our sense of humor is aligned. But then also when like Jessica and I each have very different interests as well, and so like I'll come up with a list of things that I want to Gleek, and she'll come up with a list of things she wants to Gleek, and they never overlap. It's like, oh, these all really complement each other.
And we don't repeat each other. It's remarkable. Like neither one of us have come up with the same thing. And so it's really great for feeding the content machine, because we know like we're always just going to have different things that we want to talk about, even if we're approaching it from the same sense of humor or the same point of view or comedy voice.
So that is content.
So there you go. There's your answer.
Feeding the content machine for a website is very similar to feeding the content machine for a TV show. A movie is, once the movie's done, it's done. But for a TV show, when you're thinking about a TV show, you have to think about, well, how am I going to tell story in season 1, and how am I going to tell story in season 5, and hopefully how am I going to tell story in season 10. So you have to be really serious about what the engine is that drives the story when you're conceiving of the show. And in the same way, that's how we approached Gleek, or in a similar way, that's how we approached Gleek. The idea is so simple of comedically roasting something, of celebrating something that you like through comedy, that that it's the engine can go forever. Like that, you can always celebrate something comedically that you're interested in, or that you find funny, or some weird quirk of pop culture, or something that you just read about. And I think it's also interesting that I don't think the well is ever going to completely go dry. And one of the things that we think is really important for writing comedy is we don't like to punch down. We always like to, there's a lot of negative comedy out there and a lot of negative satire. we like to approach it from, even if we're poking fun at something, we're doing it in a celebratory way. We're saying like, we find this goofy or weird or off, but we actually kind of like it too. So we're everything we're doing is, you know, hopefully in a positive thing. Even if we're kind of nitpicking at things or poking holes in the logic of something, it's still, we're like, but hey, you know, let's celebrate it. Let's gleek the hell out of it.
Yeah, we're never going to gleek something that we hate. Right.
Yeah, which is why we have an entire category dedicated to Hall & Oates.
Absolutely. Talking about the well not running dry.
All 2 posts of them currently, right? Or
oh, there's a lot coming. There's a lot coming.
Oh yeah.
I have a whole post on Kevin Kline's butt that's going to be on next week. That's just right in the Hall & Oates wheelhouse.
The other thing I was going to mention, Jason, you know, going back to technology just for 1 second, everything. I mean, we're doing everything on WordPress. That is our content management system. But with a site like this, some of the things that I have to think about are things that I've only advised clients about in the past. Right, I have to think about where this content ends up. Right, where it ultimately gets viewed. Right, so we've got our website, which is one thing, but we're also we're publishing to Google AMP, right? We're going to Apple News, right? We're looking at, you know, the different spokes of the wheel where people are going to be able to access our content, right? One thing Eric's in charge of is the social media stuff. So you know, we think about, you know, how is this going to be perceived on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, right? And so all of these places do matter, right? And I've only in the past ever had to think about the technology side, right? I can make this stuff work, right? But I don't know what I've never really had to think about what the voices of are of all of these different networks, right? I've advised all my clients in the past of what this is, and frankly, I've just been faking it till I make it, right? Now I've actually got to do it, or at least help with it. So you know, all those things factor in.
That's cool. Well, makes you a stronger person as well, Steve.
Does it?
I think that was meant to be a compliment. But
Steve mentioned social media. I just want to point out that our handle on all of the social medias is at We Poke Fun. We Poke Fun is our tagline. We tried to get at Gleek, and it is being you know, commandeered by an old Gleek fan, a Glee fan.
A Glee fan.
Yeah.
Yes, fans of the TV show.
Fans of the TV show Glee, who hasn't tweeted in many, many years. But so we embraced, because We Poke Fun is our tagline. And so we also want to be known by that. So all of our social medias.
Except we do now control the subreddit Gleek, right?
Yes, that's true.
We don't know what to do with it. We've no idea what to do with it, but we control it.
Yeah.
Well, just make sure you figure out what you're going to do on Reddit, because Reddit's an interesting beast.
It is.
Oh yeah,
it is. I've been a lurker for many, many years, and now it's like, all right, well, what do we do here?
Awesome.
Start a thread.
Exactly. Well, that about wraps it up for today. I want to say thank you very much for all you folks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. You can go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com. You can click on the links over there to subscribe. And we also put all of our show notes, so you have links to all the different things we were talking about today on there. He's totally trying to get me sued. I think we're looking with Steve's account right now. So talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank